Welcome back guys to episode 9 on how to create a multiplayer survival arena game using Unity's Unet system. So as you can see here, first things first, they fixed the bug. The technicians at Unity contacted me and they fixed it for me, so now I can properly use the multiplayer system there. But anyways, in this video we're going to be working on a input system. So before I get started, I'm going to say now that I've decided to change the format of my videos. So I'll have networking video and then a survival game related mechanic and then networking and then so on. So in this video we'll be working on, as the title suggests, input manager. So let's get started with that. First things first, we're going to need a script and we're just going to call this easy peasy input manager. Open that up. We can take these away and we'll start fresh from here. So this is what we're going to be working with. So we'll be a public bool get key down, and we're going to return input dot get key down. So we have to be able to distinguish what goes in here. So it'll be a string, well, could be anything, and this is a bool, so this returns, if it's down it'll return true, if it's not down it will return false. So now we have to distinguish. We're gonna have to create a dictionary of all the inputs correlating to what input they should be doing. So we'll have a key code and a string. So if you haven't dealt with a dictionary before, you need to have a key, which will be a string, so a name. So if you're going to be labeling something, it's going to be like 1. So you can have an int and let's say a string. So you're going to have a integer that's going to correlate to a certain string. So you can use that int to find the string within the dictionary. So we'll call this one button keys. And we're not going to be using an integer, we're going to use a string t-value. And the key is going to be a string, and the value we're going to set is a key code. So we can go back here and finish this off properly. And this is going to take in a string, and it's going to be the button name. And down here, it's going to go through the button keys, and it's going to find the key, this key. So it's going to go in the dictionary, it's going to find the string value here in the dictionary, and it's going to return this value here. So this is just a key code value, and it's looking within the dictionary for this key. And we can say if button.keys does not contain the key that we just sifted in, then if it's false, then we're going to say, whoops, we don't have that key. Let's make it a log error will be good enough. And we're going to say input manager does not contain the key plus button name, so we know which button it doesn't have a key for. And this is going to be the input manager. Now we have to distinguish our inputs, and to do that we can just say on enable. So when this game object that has this script on it, when that is enabled, we're going to do this. If you're unfamiliar with Unity's script execution, this is a really good resource. So as I mentioned before in previous videos, in the onAble is called before the start initialization, which is really good here. So it comes online before any of our other scripts need to check with the input manager. So in the input manager, in the onAble function, sorry, we're going to say the button keys. I'll just finish it. So button keys is equal to a new dictionary of string and key codes. You can just as easily initialize it here, but this ensures that it is properly initialized. And for the sake of this, we're going to say, to test this, we're going to say button keys. To test this function, we just say button keys and insert a new key, which is, let's say, the grappling hook. So we'll test it with the grappling hook and say the grappling hook key is equal to keycode dot mouse 1. So that's the right click mouse button, which is currently on, so it won't change much, but we'll be doing it through this input instead of Unity's input. Open up the grappling hook script. You can open up the grappling hook script and say here, get reference to the input manager and say input manager, and we need to get it when we start. So input manager is equal to game object dot find object of type, because there's only going to be one in our scene for us. Input manager, and we'll say instead of using the default unchangeable input, we'll say input.manager.get key down, and we'll get this here. Oops. And close that off. And if we go back to our scene and test this, so we're going to have to drag over our input manager. Let's go ahead and put it on our player prefab. So go down here, go to our player prefab and add input manager. And we can go ahead and test it now. Create a room. And if I press the right mouse button, we still shoot our grappling hook. So that works, but now we want to be able to change it. So right now it's unchangeable, it's basically how it was before. Now we need a way of changing this input to whatever the player wants. So to do this, we can go ahead and go to our scripts, create a new C# script and call this one key binding. Open that up. So we're going to be using the Unity UI system for this. We're not going to be using the GUI system how we did with the inventory. We're going to be using the UI system here. So we can go ahead and open this up. And we're going to have to get a couple things. So we're going to have to make reference to the input manager because we're going to be changing a couple things within that. We're going to be changing the dictionary values, these dictionary values to from here, sorry. So the input manager and we'll just say get type info, type of input manager, and we need to get, we're going to be using a couple prefabs that are going to be the keys. So we're going to instantiate as many keys that we have in the input manager. We're going to instantiate a certain button. So that button is going to be checking what input the player wants for particular input. So here we're going to say game object, not fame object, game object, input key prefab, and we're going to get its parent, its panel. So we're going to be putting it on a panel, just like the join room buttons. We're going to be doing the same. We're going to be parenting it to a particular menu screen. So here we're going to say input panel, inputs panel, and we have to know how many prefabs we want to instantiate. And before we do that, let's go ahead and create the prefab. So we're going to have to create a panel and say UI panel, and we'll keep it on this canvas for now. We're going to drag it into our prefabs later on, but we'll keep it now. We'll keep it here for now. So we'll call this one input menu, inputs menu. That should be good. Let's drag this down so it's a little bit smaller than the screen. Drag it to the middle, and we're gonna have another panel in this, so we can have a title, and we'll add a UI text, bring it up here, hold down Alt and drag it to the top, center it, and call this input menu. And let's say it's bold. And in the panel here, this is where we're going to instantiate our prefabs. So this is the parent object. So in here, let's design our prefabs. So we're going to have half a button, and half of it is going to be text. And we'll center this, and let's make this a little. And what we're gonna have to do with this is we're gonna have to put it in a empty game object, drag it up here, make it as wide as our elements to fit in both. And now go ahead and drag these onto them, and let's go ahead and label these. So this is going to be the title, this is the prefab, so item input key prefab, and this is the button, so we'll say input button and input label. And what we're going to do here is, so what we're going to do here is drag it down into our prefabs and remove it. And in this panel, so this is the input prefabs panel. What happened there? Prefabs panel, and we're gonna add the horizontal, no, let's say vertical layout. And as you can see what happens here, so for each item it creates it tries to fit all the items on that menu. So the more inputs you have, the bigger the. So if you have heaps of inputs, just consider having a page system. So for every 6 or 8 buttons, then so do this in the script, of course. So for each 8 buttons, then you instantiate another page, and then you instantiate more buttons, and you can do it like that. If you guys have lots of buttons and aren't sure how to do that, I can show you later on. So this is the prefabs, and we can take this and we get back to our script. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to get all the keys from. So as I said before, we're gonna have to get as many keys as we have in Input Manager, and we're gonna have to instantiate that many input prefabs. So we're gonna have to check how many keys we have. So we'll just create a function here, and we'll say this is going to be a public string array. So this is we're going to return all the keys from our button keys. So we'll say button name. So this is how many names we have here, and we'll say return button keys. Dot keys dot array or 2. So you can only get string here. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to call a special little thing. So if you're dealing with arrays or lists, link is generally the best thing to use here. Oh, system link, of course. So it has a lot of functions to do with lists and arrays, which if you're generally using any of them, this is the way to go. It makes a lot less hassle on you, so you don't have to convert. So you can easily make a function down here and just go have a for loop or whatever and go through the button keys. But with system.link, it automatically gives us to array. So it does it for us, so we don't have to. And go back here, and we're going to say make a private variable and say string arrays button names to display equals input, and we're gonna have to call that function dot button names, and that returns the array for us. And now we have to go through the names that we just got, and we're gonna have to instantiate the prefabs. So let's do a for each one. So for each string button names in button names to display, we're gonna create a game object. So it's gonna be, so we can just say instantiate the prefab and be done with it. But we can't and then we can find it right after, like we can find where it is, and then we can manipulate its variables within that. But we can just create a local variable and say this local variable is a game object equals, and we're going to cast it as a game object and say instantiate input key prefab. And now we can say this game object's transform dot, we're going to set its parent to the panel. I'm going to say input. Its parent is going to be the panel dot transform. You could have probably just said this is a transform up here and it would have been fine, but we'll just keep it as a game object for now. And so now we have to get, so we'll drag this on here, and now we have to get this value and change it to whatever input we have. So this is going to be the grappling hook. So this grappling hook is going to be the, and this is, we want this to be, let's say, because it's on mouse 1. So this is how we're going to make it through this script. So for now, let's say this is NA NA, and make sure that's applied, and we'll just go back and we'll just delete for now. So here we're going to say we're going to want to get a text object, and we're going to be using the Unity UI system, so we're going to have to get that namespace of unity.ui, and we're going to say text is the button named display text equals game object dot transform dot get child, and we'll go back, and which child was it? So 0 and 1, so it will be 1 here, and we're going to say dot get component. We want to get the text component, and we're going to make this text equal to dot text. We're going to make this equal to bn. So bn in this case is whatever string value. So this is going to be a list of strings. So we'll say 1, 2, and 3. So I'm just showing you here. This is definitely not how it's going to be. So if we're on the second value, it's going to make this text equal to 2 essentially, or whatever mouse button. So in our case, it's going to be equal to grappling hook. But let's get rid of that. So this is just the text to display what button we're about to change, or we want to change what it correlates to. So again, we're going to say text. So we want to change the other text to whatever value it is currently set to. So we'll say text is equal to I should take this way. Let's rename this. This is a bit too long. It's very hard to follow. So button name text, and this one's going to be the button or the key name text, and this is going to be equal to game object dot transform dot get child 0, and we're going to get the component of text off that, and we'll say this text, and we want to get the variable. So you'll be like, wait, aren't we getting the text variable here? No, we're getting the component, and here we're changing the variable. So I'll show you here. So drag this up here, and why does it keep this closes? Close that tab. So this line is finding this game object and this component, and then we have to change the text. So this right here to something. So we'll say this is equal to we're going to say input.manager. we're gonna have to create a new function for this. It's a lot more easier if we do it here. So we'll go back to the input manager and we'll say, and we'll return a string. So because we want to be able to use it in the text form here, so we'll just return a string so we can use it there. And we'll say get key for button, and we'll say taking a string variable button name, and again if it doesn't contain it, button name doesn't contain it, then return button keys, and it's going to ask for what key we want to look for, and we'll sift in this button key dot toString, because we're getting so this in itself is a key code. So key code is this, and this isn't a string. So what this does is, so we'll use the function toString, so it makes it essentially this. So now we can call it here, and we'll say input.manager.get key, no, what was it? Get name for key? Get key for button, and we'll say bn. So we'll be using the grappling hook example here. So this is going to be grappling hook, so we're on the grappling hook, and this is going to be equal to, the button's name is going to be equal to grappling hook, and the key is going to be, so we're sifting the grappling hook here, and we're returning the key of mouse1 toString. And as I'm looking here, I think I got this mixed up because how it's set up. So we don't want to manipulate this string, this text, because it has no component of text. We want to go into its child and get the text of that. So to do this, we just say here, so we found the game object of 0 on that, and we just want to get its first child and change its string. And down here we have to get a button, so we want to interact with this button here. So we click it now, it does nothing, but we want to click it and we want to rebind it to whatever key we are pressing down currently. So here we'll just get reference to that, and we'll say key bind button is equal to let's get that, and we'll take this away, and instead of text component we want to get the button component, and we're going to say the button when we click it, so on click dot, so we're going to add a listener. If you're unfamiliar with a listener is a Unity action. So this is a listener. So if we add something here to the here, it is technically it is a listener. So add here. So adding here. So add a listener, add a listener, add a listener. Take these away. So that's what we're doing here. So we're adding a listener, and we're saying that listener is, so it takes in a Unity action. So what I'm about to do is something is super important, which is delegates. What we did in the connection manager, we're going to do it in a different form here. So here we're going to say the delegate, so an empty, so it's going to be empty, but we're going to delegate it to a new function. So we're creating a new function here, technically a delegate. So we're going to say what will this delegate equal and we're going to create that function down here. So in this, we're going to call a function which will say start rebind for, and it takes in a button name, and we'll say because we're going to be using it in the update, the upcoming update function, because we want to rebind it. So we're going to say button we want to equal, so we'll get a global variable, and we'll say this string is equal to button button to rebind, and we're going to say it's going to initialize as null. We can go ahead and put it up with its friends. And we're going to say that button to rebind is equal to button name. So the button name we just did here, and we say debug.log. We're starting the rebind for button name. Close that off so we don't get the error. Go back to error list. So now we are starting the rebind. So it's going to be openly actively listening to what key we're going to press next. So we're saying, hey, listen up, I want to change this key here. So I'm clicking it, so it's going to say okay. So I click and be like, all right, I have to listen to the next input, because that is we're going to change the key code for that input that we just clicked on. So to do this, yeah, I think we'll do it in the update function. So we'll say update. So in the update function, we're going to say if the button to rebind is not null, because it starts off null. So if it's not null, we're going to say we want to check. So we're saying, okay, listen up. So this is essentially saying, okay, listen up, check what key, if we're pressing down a key. So to do this, we'll say, are we pressing down a key? And to do that, we say input dot any key. You can have it down. Oh, let's make it down actually. Any key down. So it doesn't do it more than once. It doesn't call it more than once. Say if any key is down, we want to change we want to change the corresponding key code of whatever button we just pressed. Unity doesn't give us it doesn't say what input we put down, so we have to do it manually. So this is just checking if we press down a key. Now we want to check what key we press down. So we have to ask the question, what key did they press down? Question mark. We don't know, but we can do it like this. So we're going to go through each of the key codes in key codes. So we can't just say key codes, it doesn't work. We have to get all the key codes there are, and there are a few. So let me think. What's the easiest way we can do it? You know what? Let's use this. I haven't used this in a while. Let's say Unity. Using system. System has a get values function built in. So whatever values you put in the. So okay, we'll say just because we have to get it. So it's an enum. And we'll say get names. No, names is string and values is just an array, and the key codes are in an array for us, or we can make it into an array for us. So the get values thing is it takes in it looks for any array of things. So any array of things. So we're gonna say that things that you're gonna be looking for is the type of key codes. So it's going to be looking through a lot of variables of values, sorry, and it's going to find all the type of key codes, and Unity has a couple of them, and it's going to find them all, and it's going to go through them all in this for each loop. So in this for each loop, we're going to say if input dot get key down is equal to the one we're on currently. So it's going through all the key. So we're pressing down a button, and then it's going to go through all the key codes. And if you're pressing down the key code that it's currently on, then it's going to say yes, we're on the key code we want to go through now. So if it's true, so if we are pressing the key code that we're on now, then we want to say change key for that value. And we're going to do that. We're going to create a function in the input manager to do exactly that. So down here we'll say public, because we want to call it where the accessor will be public, and we'll say public void set button for key. So this is obviously going to take in a string, the button name that we want to change. So this will be the key, and the key code, I'm going to say key code here, and because it's going to we're going to filter in the key code that we're pressing down currently, and we're going to change the key. We're going to change the value of what key we're currently checking to change. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So we're going to say all it is changing the button key at the button name key is equal to key code. So, oops. Key code. I didn't have a. Alright, so all this is doing, so we'll copy and paste this, and we'll lay it down under here, and you can see what we're doing. So all this is doing is, so it's having a button name, and we're changing this key code within this script. So we can call that function here. So input manager dot set button key, and button to rebind is our string that we want to change, and we're going to filter in this variable, because this value, because that is the one we're currently on, and we end it there. And we have to say, because we're done rebinding, we'll say button to rebind is equal to is null, and we want to break out of the loop because we're done. We found the key that we're on, and we've set the button to that key, and we want to break out of that. And up here we'll say set rebind for the end, and we have to close it off. And I'm pretty sure this is going to work. So close this up, take this out, delete the prefab, and okay, this is going to be pretty stupid, but this is going to be temporary. We're just going to drag it onto the, we're going to create a extra canvas, and we're going to drag the input manager on inputs menu onto that, and we're going to drag it onto the network manager. And let's just get this out of the way. And instead of having the input manager here, we're just going to turn that off, and we're going to put, actually we're going to have to take that off for now. And we'll instantiate this input menu. I think we should probably do this in the lobbies. So when we make the lobby system in like 3 days, it should be up. Then it's going to be in the lobby system as well as the game. But for now, we're just going to have it here. So we don't have to instantiate it in the game. So because if you instantiate it in the game, you're not going to have it before you get into the game. So you're going to have to pause the game that you just got into to change all your inputs to what you want. And speaking of changing the inputs to what you want on the start, because the next video is going to be player accounts, so I'll be using a basic player accounts from the asset store. I thought against using my own because it cost me money. Feels bad, man. If you guys were interested in having a more secure player account system and like more flexibility on that, I can set up my own server for you guys, own database, sorry. But yeah, we'll load in the inputs from your player account directly into your input manager. But we'll do that within the next video, but for now we'll just have the one input. So, but I'm getting ahead of myself again. So we're going to put the input manager here for now. Oops. Input manager. And we need to put the key rebind on here, and we drag over the prefab here, panel here, and if we press play, you can see already there it loads up. So it's not me just cheating, it loads up how we want. So we only have one input, and if we click this, let's say, so we're starting the rebind, and I just realized it's never going to change because we're not instantiating more objects. We're not instantiating again when we rebind it. So we have to wait, because this is only called on the start and it's only called once. We want to change it when we change the input. So we want to see, because it is probably working. So if I click here and press E, and if we go into the game, so if we go in here, we'll start a game, create room, and I press E, you can see I'm pressing E, and it's successfully rebinded for it, but it's not displaying properly here because we're only instantiating in the start. And easy fix, we'll just create another dictionary, and this is going to be a string, and it's going to be a text, and we say button label dick. Whoops, shouldn't have laughed. And we'll say in the start function is equal to new string and text, and we'll say down here we're going to create a new one, and this is using the string. The string will be the button name that we're on now, and the text will be this variable, this text object. And down here we'll say button label dick. We're gonna move it up, so because we're moving null. Button to rebind is equal dot text is equal to not new, but to the kc.toString. So we just want to stringify this, and it's changing this text object. So because this is equal to the text object up here, because this is the key and it's finding the key within this label, and it's changing the text. So it's essentially this, but down here in different format, obviously. And we're just going to say it's going to be equal to the key code that we're on currently. Start here, click to rebind, and we'll say Q. And as you can see, it changes. W, click, change, click, change, click, change, click, change, click, and it's back on the mouse button. And we can start the game, host the game, and there we have a simple input manager for our game. Obviously there's a few things to change, because we'll have to create a new input for grappling hook release, because up here we have a release function, so we're gonna have to create a new function there. So we have to make a new dictionary button key for every single input we have, every single one. Oh, there's a few exceptions like menu buttons or whatever, but this is the basis of a simple input manager. I should probably say this, so we're going to be loading inputs, so we're going to be saving and loading inputs from database. So we're going to have a user account system, so we're going to be loading them whenever you log in. It's going to load them automatically into your scene. So whatever inputs you had before, it's going to automatically load them, so we don't have to we can save them in the player press file. So Unity gives us a folder to store certain information, but that doesn't really work for an online game, because you might not be playing on the same place every time, and you don't want to rebind it. It's just nonsensical. So nonsense, sorry, I should say. Thank you guys for watching, and see you guys in the next video.